The large conference room on Earth was silent as the alien delegates took their seats. They came from planets far beyond Earth's reach, their species diverse, their appearances strange and intimidating. The human ambassador, Williams, stood at the front of the room, a calm expression on his face, though his eyes betrayed a hint of anticipation. This meeting was like no other, and both sides knew that the fate of the future rested on what would unfold in the next few hours. The aliens, having long dismissed Earth as a weak and unimportant planet, now stood before a new challenge. Earth was a mystery to them, a planet full of humans who had shown no interest in expanding their territory or making alliances. To many, the Earth was a backwater, a species too fragile to stand against more powerful, aggressive civilizations. But rumors had begun to circulate. Strange things had been happening on Earth. Some whispered of sudden bursts of technological advancement, while others hinted that Earth had been quietly preparing for something big. The delegates didn't know what to expect. They had been briefed on the Earthlings' so-called peaceful nature, their resistance to war, and their fragile infrastructure. They had seen the videos of Earth's cities, the towers and machines, but they had never considered that this planet might possess anything of real value. They had come to judge, to assess whether Earth was worthy of their attention, or whether it would fall beneath the weight of their might. As the last of the delegates entered the room, a few exchanged glances. Some wore expressions of arrogance, while others seemed genuinely intrigued. The leader of the Krathos delegation, a large insect-like alien, looked down on the humans with disdain, his multifaceted eyes scanning the room. Beside him, the sleek, reptilian form of the Draken leader moved with a certain pride, their scales glistening in the low light. In the far corner, a group of robot-like beings from the planet Xylos stood quietly, their glowing eyes flickering with curiosity. Ambassador Williams didn't flinch under their gaze. He had known they would come, had known they would judge Earth in the harshest of lights. But what the aliens didn't know was that they were already too late. For years, humans had quietly prepared, studying the galaxy, learning from the powerful civilizations that surrounded them, and quietly gathering resources. They hadn't shown their hand, and the rest of the universe had underestimated them. The humans had learned the hard way that trust could be as dangerous as betrayal, and so they kept their cards close to their chest. The alien delegates, in all their superior knowledge, had overlooked the most important factor of all. Earth was full of surprises. The room was still, the air heavy with anticipation. The Krathos leader gave a slow, deliberate nod, and Ambassador Williams took the first step forward. The humans had been waiting for this moment for years, though none of the aliens knew it yet. Williams cleared his throat, his voice calm but carrying across the room. "Welcome, delegates," he began. "I understand your people have traveled a long way to be here, and I thank you for that. This meeting will be of great importance for the future of Earth and the future of the galaxy." The tone of his voice was not one of desperation or weakness. It wasn't a plea for mercy. It was firm, steady, as though he had been preparing for this moment his entire life. The aliens shifted uncomfortably, sensing the change in the air. Ambassador Williams continued, "But before we move forward, I must ask you to consider something carefully. You have come to Earth to judge us, to determine if we are worth your attention. But I ask you to remember one thing. You know nothing of us, and this will be your greatest mistake." The room fell into a deep silence. The Krathos leader's antennae twitched in irritation. The Draken leader's eyes narrowed, sensing the strange tension. The Tylos delegates remained motionless, their robotic faces unreadable. "I know you expect us to be weak," Williams said, his words almost a whisper, though they were heard by everyone in the room. "I know you believe that we are simple, that we are easily controlled. But I am here to tell you that Earth is not what you think." A murmur rippled through the delegates. Some were curious, some were skeptical, and some were offended. The Krathos leader's voice broke the silence, his tone rough and dismissive. "What is this nonsense? We've studied your planet. We've watched you for centuries. You are weak. Your technology is primitive. William's eyes flashed, his expression never changing. You have seen what we allow you to see, he replied simply. But you have not seen everything. The aliens grew uneasy. They were used to being the ones with all the answers, the ones who controlled the conversation. But now, they felt as if they were being led into unfamiliar territory, and that uncertainty gnawed at them. The Draken leader spoke next, his voice dripping with disdain. So, what is it that you believe you can offer us? Why should we waste our time with your planet? Ambassador Williams gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. You'll find out soon enough. The tension in the room was palpable. The air seemed to thicken with unspoken words. The delegates were starting to understand that this meeting was going to be different from any other they had attended. They had come to judge, to test, but now they found themselves at the mercy of a planet they thought was beneath them. And that perhaps was the most dangerous thing of all. As the last words of Ambassador Williams echoed in the room, a heavy silence fell. The alien delegates exchanged uneasy glances, their confidence beginning to waver. The Krathos leader, who had been the most vocal among them, straightened his posture, his multiple eyes narrowing as he tried to read Williams. There was no hint of fear, no sign of weakness in the human's demeanor. The room was still, save for the faint hum of the cooling system in the walls. The ambassador's calmness only heightened the sense of discomfort among the aliens, as if they had just stumbled into a trap they couldn't see. Williams stood before them, his posture relaxed yet unwavering, his gaze unwavering as he observed the delegation. He knew what they were thinking. They had come expecting an easy conquest, expecting to intimidate a primitive species into submission. Instead, they were faced with something far more dangerous, a human who wasn't afraid to speak truths that no one else dared to. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence felt like an eternity. The aliens, having never expected a human to challenge them so boldly, hesitated. In their minds, they had assumed the meeting would be a simple matter of assessing Earth's resources, perhaps offering a few alliances, or, more likely, quietly negotiating to absorb or control the planet. But what Williams had said was a warning, one they hadn't expected to hear. The Krathos leader was the first to break the silence, though his voice held an edge of suspicion. You speak as if you know things about us that we do not know ourselves. Explain yourself, Earthling. Williams did not flinch at the challenge. I speak of the truth you refuse to see, he replied calmly. For centuries, Earth has been observed from the shadows, its every move analyzed. You see what we allow you to see, and that has always been enough to fool you. But I will tell you now, Earth is not the weak, defenseless species you've been led to believe. We have our own ways of keeping secrets, our own means of ensuring our survival. And you will soon understand that we have been preparing for this moment for much longer than you think. The room shifted again. This time, it wasn't just unease, but something deeper, suspicion. The Draken leader, his reptilian eyes flickering with uncertainty, leaned forward. What do you mean by this? You speak of secrets, of plans. What are these things you are hiding? Williams took a slow, deliberate step forward, his voice low but clear. I'm not here to beg for your mercy or your approval. I'm here to tell you the truth. For too long, we've kept our power in check, kept our knowledge under wraps. But no more. You think of Earth as insignificant, as a planet to be dominated. But we are not your playthings. We are not your slaves. We've learned, we've adapted, and most importantly, we've watched. We've watched you all for centuries. The Xylos delegation, who had remained silent until now, exchanged glances. Their robotic faces gave nothing away, but the tension in the room made them seem more alive than ever. The Xylos were known for their cold logic, their calculating nature, and they did not take threats lightly. One of them spoke, its voice mechanical but unmistakably sharp. You claim to have been watching us. What does that mean? Are you trying to threaten us, Earthling? Williams met the Xylos' gaze without hesitation. I'm not threatening you. I'm telling you that Earth has learned everything it needs to. Our surveillance has been thorough, our studies extensive. The rest of the galaxy may have underestimated us, but that mistake will not be made again." There was a long pause. The Krathos leader shifted, clearly unnerved. "What are you planning, Earth? Are you preparing for war? Do you think you can stand against us?" Williams shook his head slowly, his expression unchanged. "No, I don't think we need to stand against you. But make no mistake, we will not be your victims either. You've made the mistake of thinking of us as weak. But the truth is, Earth has been quietly building strength in ways you cannot comprehend. And now you will see that we are not as helpless as you believed." The Krathos leader took a deep breath, clearly frustrated. "Then show us this power you speak of." Williams looked at each of the delegates, his eyes steady. "I will in time. But first, you must understand something. Earth does not act out of anger or desire for conquest. We act out of necessity. You have miscalculated. Earth may not have a vast fleet of warships or weapons that could be seen from space, but we have something more dangerous. We have resilience. We have the ability to adapt and survive in ways you've never seen. And soon, you will understand that." The tension in the room was now palpable. The alien delegates were no longer just assessing Earth from a distance. They were now questioning everything they thought they knew. They had come expecting a weak planet, a species ripe for conquest. Instead, they were confronted by a human who exuded confidence, who spoke with an authority that they could not ignore. For the first time, the aliens felt unsure. They could not read Earth's plans. They could not predict what would happen next, and that, more than anything, terrified them. Williams gave them no more to consider at that moment. He simply turned, his face a mask of calm resolve, and walked back toward his seat. The room remained silent, the weight of his words hanging heavily in the air. As the delegates began to shift uncomfortably, one thing became clear: the game had changed. Earth was no longer a planet to be dismissed, and for the first time, the aliens were forced to confront the possibility that humanity might not just survive, but thrive in the face of threats they could not yet understand. As the silence in the room stretched, the delegates from across the galaxy began to feel the weight of Williams' words. Each of them had come to Earth with preconceived notions, thinking the humans were weak and unworthy of their attention. But now, there was doubt in their eyes. Something about the way the ambassador spoke, the calm confidence in his voice, had shaken them in ways they hadn't expected. They had been prepared to look down on Earth, to dominate and control, but now they found themselves questioning whether they had underestimated this fragile planet. The Krathos leader was the first to regain his composure. His 6 arms shifted restlessly, and his antennae twitched in irritation. "We don't care for your threats, human," he growled, his voice thick with disdain. "You may have kept your secrets well, but they will not save you when the time comes to face us. We are the masters of the galaxy, and you are nothing more than an insect." William's eyes remained calm, though his lips curled slightly into a knowing smile. "I don't need saving," he replied. "And if you continue to underestimate us, you will learn a very painful lesson." The room fell silent again, but this time, the tension was different. It was not just the uneasy silence of disbelief, it was the heavy silence of anticipation. The Krathos leader, despite his harsh words, could not ignore the unease creeping into his mind. What had Williams meant by Earth has been quietly building strength. What did this human know that they didn't? Williams, sensing the hesitation in the room, decided it was time to reveal more. "You want to know what Earth has been hiding?" he asked, his voice low but carrying across the room. "I will show you." With a slight motion, Williams turned and gestured toward a large screen on the wall behind him. The delegates watched, their curiosity piqued. The screen flickered to life, displaying a series of images, pictures of cities, of human advancements, of technologies the aliens had never seen. The humans had kept their progress hidden for so long, but now it was all laid bare for the alien races to see. The first image showed a vast, sprawling city, one that the aliens had never encountered. At first glance, it looked like a simple cityscape, but as the camera zoomed in, they saw something strange. In the center of the city stood a massive structure, its design unlike anything the delegates had ever witnessed. The building seemed to hum with an energy the aliens couldn't place. "Is that?" the Draken leader began, his voice trailing off as he struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. Williams nodded. "Yes, that is the heart of a project that has been in development for decades. Earth has been creating a power source, one so advanced, so powerful, that it could change the balance of the galaxy itself. But this is just one of many hidden technologies." The screen shifted to another image, showing rows of machines unlike anything the aliens had encountered. These machines were not weapons in the traditional sense, but they had an air of purpose about them. They were sleek, efficient, and powered by a new form of energy. They could be used for many things: building, creating, defending. The Xylos delegation, whose technological prowess was unparalleled, couldn't help but feel a ripple of discomfort. These machines were different from anything they had seen. They weren't just tools. They were adaptable, dangerous. The Krathos leader sneered, trying to dismiss the images. "These are toys, nothing more," he said, his voice laced with disbelief. "They can't possibly compare to our weapons or ships." Williams smiled again, though this time there was a hint of something darker in his expression. "What if I told you these machines can adapt and evolve faster than your weapons? What if I told you they can learn to outsmart anything you throw at them?" The room grew colder. The Draken leader, who had been silent up until now, spoke with a rare edge in his voice. "Are you saying your technology is superior to ours?" "I'm not saying that," Williams replied smoothly. "I'm saying that Earth has learned to evolve. We have learned to adapt. And more importantly, we've learned to keep our secrets hidden from those who would exploit us." The atmosphere in the room shifted again, the delegates beginning to understand the gravity of the situation. What Williams was revealing wasn't just advanced technology. It was a new way of thinking, a new approach to warfare, survival, and growth. Earth had spent centuries watching, learning, and now it was ready to show the universe that it could play the game just as well as anyone else. But there was more to come. Williams wasn't finished. The screen changed again, this time showing this strange, pulsating energy field. It wasn't just a power source. It was a barrier, something capable of deflecting attacks, absorbing energy, and even manipulating the environment around it. The delegates stared at the image in shock. No known species had the ability to create such a thing. The energy field seemed almost alive, its core swirling with an eerie glow. "This," Williams said softly, "is our final secret. It's something we've been working on for decades, something that could protect us from any threat. A shield that can deflect even the most powerful of attacks. And we have only just begun to understand its true potential." The Krathos leader growled, his frustration mounting. "This is impossible," he muttered, though his voice lacked the conviction it once had. "No one has this kind of power." "But we do," Williams replied, his voice steady. "And now you understand that Earth is not to be underestimated." The delegates remained still, processing what they had just witnessed. What they had once thought was a planet of weak, defenseless humans had turned into something far more dangerous. Earth had not only hidden its power, it had evolved, quietly preparing itself for the day when it would no longer be able to stay in the shadows. The aliens had come to judge Earth, but now they were the ones being judged, and they were starting to realize that they might not be ready for the truth of what Earth had become. As the delegates absorbed the shocking images on the screen, the room grew tense. The once confident Krathos leader now stood motionless, his 6 arms twitching restlessly. His antennae drooped as he struggled to process the revelation. The other delegates, too, were unnervingly silent. They had expected a show of force, a human ambassador begging for mercy, perhaps even groveling for an alliance. Instead, they were being confronted with the terrifying reality that Earth was not only capable of defending itself, but it had the potential to become something far more powerful than they could have ever imagined. Ambassador Williams stood calmly before them, his expression impassive. He had made his point, but he wasn't finished yet. You came here expecting a weak, primitive species that could easily be controlled. You thought we were a planet of no consequence. But what you don't understand is that we've been preparing for this day for a long time. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. The room was filled with tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Every alien delegate had underestimated humanity, and now they were beginning to realize how wrong they had been. The Xylos delegate, who had been silent throughout much of the conversation, finally spoke, his voice mechanical and devoid of emotion, but sharp nonetheless. What you show us is impressive, human. But what does it mean? We still have the might of the galaxy on our side. Your technology, though powerful, cannot compare to the fleets of warships, the forces we command. We are not just going to walk away from this. There will be consequences. Williams met the Xylos gaze with unwavering confidence. I never said Earth was ready to take you all on today. But you will not have it easy. We've learned the power of patience, and we know that the more you underestimate us, the stronger we become. The Krathos leader snorted in disbelief. Patience. What good is patience when we have the strength to crush your defenses in an instant? You can hide behind your technology, but at the end of the day, it's power that matters. William's eyes narrowed slightly, but his voice remained calm, as though he were speaking to an ally rather than a foe. You don't understand. This isn't about power in the way you think it is. The true strength of humanity is not just in our weapons or our machines. It's in our ability to adapt, to learn, to overcome the impossible. You think we're weak because we don't flaunt our power, but we've spent centuries watching, observing, learning from every species we encountered. He turned to face the screen again, and the images changed. This time, it wasn't just technology that appeared on the screen, but something far more unsettling, a map of the galaxy, pinpointing the locations of key alien worlds. You've always been in the dark about Earth's true reach, Williams continued. But we've been watching you for longer than you can imagine. Your ships, your military forces, your empires, they are all within our grasp. The Krathos leader flinched as the map illuminated, showing the strategic positions of each alien empire. The human ambassador's words were far more than idle threats. They spoke of careful, deliberate observation. What are you trying to say? The Krathos demanded, his voice tense. Are you implying that you've infiltrated our systems? Williams shook his head. Not infiltrated. We've observed, studied. We know your weaknesses, your leaders, your supply lines, your military tactics, and we've used that knowledge to develop countermeasures, to develop our own systems to protect ourselves. He allowed the tension to build before he added, and, in time, we will use that knowledge against you if we must. The room was deathly silent. The Draken leader, who had been watching Williams closely, leaned forward, his reptilian eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and fear. You claim to have everything you need to defeat us, he hissed. But how can you know everything? How can you be so sure? Because, Williams replied slowly, we understand something you don't. We understand what it means to fight for survival. Earth doesn't just survive, it evolves. And every time you challenge us, we grow stronger. Every time you think we've been beaten down, we rise. That's why you can't control us. You've underestimated the human spirit. For the first time, the alien leaders began to question their assumptions. The human spirit, something they had dismissed as a sentimental weakness, was suddenly beginning to appear as something far more powerful than they had ever expected. It wasn't just about technology or weapons. It was about a people who, in the face of adversity, would never surrender. The atmosphere in the room grew heavier, the weight of realization pressing down on the alien delegates. The Krathos leader clenched his fists, his frustration evident. You speak of human spirit and survival. But those are mere words. You have no fleet to match ours. No weapons powerful enough to challenge us. We don't need a fleet, Williams said, his voice unwavering. We have something far more dangerous than any ship or weapon. We have the ability to think, to innovate, and to adapt faster than you can imagine. The Tylos delegate tilted its head, clearly intrigued. And what does that mean for us human? Are you suggesting that we should leave this meeting and forget the very reason we came here? Williams took a step forward, his expression serious. What I'm suggesting is that you rethink your approach to Earth. You think you've come here to control us, to conquer us. But what you don't understand is that we're not just a planet to be dominated. We are a species that will fight for our survival. And if you come for us, we will not back down. The Krathos leader growled again, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his voice. This isn't over. We won't forget your words, human. Williams nodded. Nor will we. But remember this, Earth will not be your conquest. We are not your slaves. And if you try to make us your enemies, you will find that we are much more dangerous than you could ever imagine. With that, the ambassador turned and motioned for the meeting to end. The alien delegates stood in stunned silence as they processed the weight of the encounter. For the first time, they were unsure of their next move. They had come to Earth to claim it, to bend its people to their will. But now, they were beginning to understand that they were not dealing with a helpless planet. They were dealing with humanity, a species that would never be subdued, no matter the cost. The game had changed, and the future of the galaxy would never be the same again. The tension in the room remained palpable as the delegates stood frozen, each of them deep in thought. The Krathos leader, who had once been the most vocal in dismissing Earth's potential, now appeared uncertain, his previous arrogance stripped away. The others, too, were silent, their minds racing with the implications of what they had just witnessed. Ambassador Williams had not only revealed humanity's hidden strengths, but he had also challenged their understanding of power itself. For the first time, they realized that Earth was not the insignificant, defenseless world they had believed it to be. Instead, it was a force to be reckoned with, a species that had been quietly biding its time, building its strength, and now ready to defend itself when the time came. The Krathos leader clenched his fists, his face contorted with frustration. "This is not over," he muttered, his voice low and dangerous. "You cannot expect to intimidate us with these tricks. We will return, and we will make you regret this." Williams met his gaze without flinching. "We will see," he replied calmly. "But know this, Earth will not bend to anyone's will. Not now, not ever." The room remained still, each alien delegate processing what had been said. There was a new, uncomfortable understanding settling over them. Williams had made his point. Earth wasn't just another planet to be conquered. It was a sleeping giant, and if they dared to provoke it, they would face the consequences. The Draken leader, whose silence had been almost as unsettling as the others, finally spoke up, his voice low and measured. "You have shown us your strength, human, but you must understand, we are not just here for conquest. We came to offer an alliance, a partnership of sorts, where we could share knowledge, resources, and even power. Your technology, though impressive, could benefit greatly from the might of our fleets. We do not want to destroy Earth. We want to elevate it." William's eyes narrowed. He had expected this. The Draken had always been known for their diplomacy, but there was a thinly veiled threat in their words. He understood what was being offered, but he wasn't about to fall into the trap. "You offer us an alliance," Williams said slowly, "but you fail to recognize that we don't need your fleets. What we need is respect. Earth will not be a vassal to any empire. We will not trade our independence for promises of power." The Draken leader's gaze hardened, but Williams could see the subtle shift in his expression, a flicker of doubt, perhaps even uncertainty. The humans were standing their ground. They weren't going to be swayed by promises or threats. They had learned the value of self-reliance, and they would not compromise that for anything. The Tylos delegate, who had remained quiet for most of the meeting, now spoke up, his tone thoughtful. "You are a proud species, human. It's clear that you have great potential. But do you truly think you can stand against us? We are the ones who have shaped the galaxy. You are nothing but a speck in its vast expanse." William stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "Maybe, but we're a speck that's about to cause a lot of disruption." He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. "We don't need to conquer the galaxy. We only need to protect our home. And we will do whatever it takes to ensure that no one dares to threaten us again." The silence that followed was deafening. The alien delegates exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that their earlier confidence had been misplaced. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were faced with a problem they hadn't expected. A planet of humans who were not afraid to fight, to evolve, and to survive. After what felt like an eternity, the Krathos leader spoke again, his voice colder this time. "You've made your point, human. But mark my words, this is not the end. We will be back. And next time, it won't be a diplomatic meeting. It will be war." William's gaze was steady, unflinching. "If it comes to that, so be it. But know this, you will face a fight unlike anything you've ever seen." With that, the ambassador turned away, signaling the end of the meeting. The delegates stood motionless, their minds racing, uncertain of what the future held. Earth had just made its stance clear. It was no longer a helpless planet to be picked on. It was a force in its own right. As the delegates began to file out of the room, the atmosphere was thick with uncertainty. The Krathos, the Tylos, and the Draken had all come to Earth with plans to dominate. But they were leaving with a new understanding. Earth wasn't weak. Earth wasn't easy prey. And if they wanted to take it down, they would have to fight harder than they ever had before. The message had been delivered. And now, the galaxy would have to reckon with the quiet strength of humanity. Ambassador Williams stood alone in the conference room for a moment, his expression calm. He had done what he set out to do. He had shown the galaxy that Earth was not a world to be underestimated. And if the aliens thought they could return and conquer Earth, they would soon learn just how wrong they were. Earth was ready, and the rest of the galaxy was about to find out.